the enrollment of every child in secondary school this year. National administrative arms will work with the county and sub-county education officials to ensure that no child is locked out of secondary education owing to factors removed from their own ability to access education. In this regard, ladies and gentlemen, the ministry officials will be required to file accurate and daily returns on the status of reporting from schools in order to ensure 100% transition. And when I say accurate, I mean accurate. Don't sit in your office to be given reports. Go and do physical checks yourself so that the reports you give us are actual. And don't say no chief should be coming to your school. A chief, we are delivering as one government. So if a chief comes to your school to help you, to tell you this girl was married at Kanyanyaini and we can go and get the girl from Kanyanyaini, we shall go and get the girl from Kanyanyaini and take the girl to school. Are we together on this one? This means that parents, guardians, and school managers must facilitate admission of all children to secondary schools. And our radar is on those areas of the country which I will for this time not mention, who are notorious for taking the girl child to be married at this particular time. The second point I want to make very clearly, without water in my mouth, application for the Elimu Scholarship Program. In the wisdom of government, together with an external collaborator, 9,000 scholarships are going to be available for the children that need them. Originally, the government had mapped certain areas of this country that required them in order to aid the 100% transition, and those were about 110 sub-counties. But the president, in his wisdom, directed that all the slums in the inner cities must be included. And we have identified 15 metropolitan areas that qualify. For example, if you come to Nairobi, you'll find several slums of Kibera, Mathare, Kawangware, and so on and so forth. It makes a lot of sense because we have always assumed that it is the outflung areas where some people even own camels. I think a camel is worth about 50,000, isn't it? If you go to the slums, you will find out that the president in his wisdom has directed us to be sure. And I want to warn anybody who has tricks, because certain people will want their children or their relatives. The decision is yours. If you take the risk, we shall come on you like a ton of bricks. Let us ensure that that child, who otherwise would not have gone to school without that help, is the one that is awarded. There are 15. I want to urge all qualified candidates to apply for consideration of this scholarship, which is now out. The list of the tagged sub-counties and 15 urban centers with informal settlements can be accessed through the Ministry of Education and Equity Group Foundation websites. The first one is www.education.go.ke, and the second one is https://equitybank.co.ke/register Elimu. If you have a problem with this, we are prepared. And I want to urge Mungai, who is the face of this, that you are serving the government. And the government is headed by Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. So if you do anything else that somebody tells you, then you are on your own. I will not cover you. Can we give justice to that child that has no face and has no capacity? Because we are going to admit some very fine children, and then you start seeing in the newspapers, oh, I come from Kanyanyaini. I was taken at Alliance, but I can't go. Now that is the target we are looking for. Are we together? The third point, 2020 school fees guidelines. The government of the Republic of Kenya continues to provide free day secondary education grants per learner for tuition, operations, and infrastructure improvement. Funds are disbursed to schools based on enrollment uploaded by principals on the National Education Management System, NEMIS. I've personally focused on NEMIS over the last few months and have been assured by the PS, Dr. Belio Kipsan, that all these children are captured on NEMIS. I don't want going forward to hear that I'm unable to do this or that, because then it would mean that I was not properly briefed. Are we on the same page here? I urge all principals and boards of management to ensure that these funds are used for the intended purpose. This will enable us to further the attainment of 100% transition, which is the presidential legacy. And in order to warn you in advance, I, as Magoha, son of Magoha, I shall do a post-mortem physical audit. And only God will save you if you ignore the child who required the help, and for whatever reason you supported somebody whose families and relatives could afford to support the child. Are we on the same page here? And the money is not a small amount of money. What is it? Is it 1 point? Yes, it's 2 billion. 3 billion. You see, 3 billion can fill this room. 3 billion can fill this room. So if we select 9,000 children who have passed well, then the president will go to sleep. I will also go to sleep. Even Bailey will go to sleep. Even you will go to sleep, isn't it? Parents are therefore advised only to pay the amount in terms of fees. Somebody's at my back. I will lead senior ministry officials on a nationwide monitoring exercise to ensure that Form 1 students are joining the schools that they were selected to, and that fee guidelines are strictly adhered to. But let me hasten to say this. I have 2.5 years to go, and we are midwifing the CBC. We shall follow the fee guidelines, but nothing stops a patriotic principal from engaging his or her board of management to see if he can persuade voluntarily people who want to improve the infrastructure of their schools. It has to be voluntary, and ensure that you do not force children that cannot afford to contribute in that exercise. Are we together here? Parents are therefore advised to only pay the amount of fees by the ministry and report any incidents of students who are turned away. Let me be very simple. Do not turn away any child from school because of school fees. Hiyo pesa ni yako. Do not, once the child comes, welcome the child. Discuss school fees matters, if necessary, afterwards. Are we together here? We have a team on the ground composed of our own staff from the ministry. Teachers Service Commission has also a similar team on the ground, and I think together they can ensure that there is a seamless process. That's why I am not very happy. I will not pretend to be very happy that my other arm, the Teacher Service Commission, is not here. Let us not continue to think backwards. We have 3 legs, and one of those legs is the Teacher Service Commission. Have you tried to sit on a 2-legged seat? You can't be stable there. So this morning we are not very stable, but I've been told that there were technicalities. Let this be the last time where you try to separate us. Because I've said we deliver as what? As one. We deliver as one government. And that's the way it is going to be. I also call on members of the public, ladies and gentlemen, to report any of the cases of learners who fail to join Form 1, and this is going to be a bottleneck. So let us work with the Ministry of Interior, coordination of national government, together with my people on the ground. Let us trace the children. Don't wait for them to come. If you find they have not come, let us go and look for them. With regard to my daughters and granddaughters who got pregnant and by the grace of God delivered at that time, can we encourage them to join schools at the same time? Because last year quite a number did not join schools. The ones who are still pregnant and are afraid of joining the schools, let them join schools. We shall allow them off time to go and deliver and come back to school. That is what the government is saying. Are we together? And where the cultures are against the process, the advantage is to who? Is to the child. We are empowering you to go against the culture and get our children to school. Are we together? The RDs, are you hearing me? Especially those in those areas. You are fully empowered to make sure the girls, even the ones who are pregnant, they are welcome to come and join schools. When it comes for time to deliver, the government is alive. We shall make sure they deliver and then go back to school. But hope that they don't get pregnant again. Senor? Form 1 selection process. As you are aware, I released KCP results on the 18th of November. I wish to recognize the efforts of the multi-agency team that we worked with together. And before I go into the details, I want to say this. The team that has done this has looked at a faceless Kenyan child. It's a Kenyan child that is faceless. We don't know where the child comes from. And we have assumed that every Kenyan child must be given justice through an equal opportunity prospect. So you will find that from every region, every child has been considered. One of the things we insisted is to ensure that you don't give a child a school that the child did not apply for. Are we together? So in over 95% of the cases, you find that the child has gotten admitted to where the child applied for. But we have had problems. But the biggest problem I want to mention early, that there are those children who choose to select only 2 schools. You select Pangani, and then you select Kenya High School. I can't call my children stupid, but they are not wise. Yet you are supposed to select 11. So when you have already committed suicide yourself, we shall place you where you did not choose. And you can do whatever you like, because you started the whole process. Are we together? The second problem we have had is with regards to some urban areas like Nairobi and Mombasa and Malindi, where it seems there is such a high concentration of private schools pushing children to get very high scores, and there are no high schools around there. So with those things in mind, ladies and gentlemen, let me continue with this. A total of 1,083,456 candidates sat for the exam, of which 1,075,201 have been placed in secondary schools. This is after excluding the inmates, those ones who are restricted because of certain reasons, the ones that are overage, and refugees in camps. I want to affirm to you that I will consult His Excellency the President with regards to overage children. Well, the overage guys, if in his wisdom he feels they should be able to join schools, so why not? Isn't it? Admitting all this will complete our plan of admitting 100% in line with our 100% transmission from primary to secondary school. as required by Article 53, bracket 1, bracket B of the Kenya Constitution, on provision of free and compulsory basic education to the Kenyan child. This year, we have gone strictly by merit and students' choices. The dilemma of thousands of KCP candidates choosing the same school as option 1. Kenyans are very interesting people, isn't it? This year, if it is Pangani, then the following year, next, everybody chooses Pangani first. Are we together? So I wish to outline the dilemma of the ministry in placing top KCP performers in schools of their choices. This year, we discovered that candidates considered capable of scoring top marks in KCP have a tendency to select just a few schools. Unfortunately, the top schools that are an envy of every candidate have no capacity to admit all of them. This disadvantages the candidates in the sense that missing their first choices leaves them at the mercy of the remaining schools, and some of which might not be interested, some of which they must not be interested in. For example, first of all, ignore the data that is in the press this year. Pangani this year attracted 111,817. And the spaces available are 336. Where is the principal? Pigeni makofi kwa kidogo. Alliance National School, 83,489. Ako wapi? Mwangi. Oh, where ndio Mwangi?
She's the former governor.
Oh. And Thika High School, 49,000. No, the Kenya High School, 49,727 for 336. Where is the principal? Now, so that is a dilemma. So you will hear a lot of noise. Don't listen to it. Because the total capacity of those three schools is just about 1,100. And the total numbers we are dealing with here are over 200,000. So put cotton wool in your ears and don't listen to any noise. Because we have made sure that every child and every region has been given justice. County and secondary school capacity challenges. During the selection, we noted that the challenge of inadequate capacities of places in secondary schools in some counties, and I wish to mention just a few. Starting with Nairobi, the candidature, 63,973. The capacity, 23,613, leaving a deficit of almost 40,000. In Mombasa, candidature is 18,989. Capacity is a paltry 5,126, leaving a deficit of close to 14,000. And Kilifi, just to mention a few, candidature of 34,404 against a capacity of 10,493, leaving a deficit of nearly 24,000. Ladies and gentlemen, so when you hear the noise, it is not because anybody has taken any money from anywhere. Up to this point, I can bet my life on that process. Faced with these challenges, the ministry opted to place learners from these counties to schools in neighboring counties and not in schools of their choices. And this number, I think, was just about 30,000. I therefore call upon the leadership of these counties to provide the enabling environment for the establishment and expansion of secondary schools. And I want to address the Nairobi politicians, the MPs. They make a lot of noise. But apart from the school that is being built in Kibera, whatever name it is, I don't know which other secondary school is being built here in Nairobi. So I want to challenge them. Instead of the noise, can each of you give us about 2 or 3 secondary schools? And since you are about 17, that will give us a number that, and this can be done within the year, so that next year we don't have this problem. Overall, due to skewed candidate choices or unavailability of vacancies in home counties, the ministry placed only 30,000 candidates in schools that they had not picked, although they reflected their level. And the schools that we placed them, we insisted, reflected the level of their performance. Are we together? We took time. So if it is extra-county schools, we looked around how they performed, and a child was given a school that suited his performance. So that was justice for that child. I wish to ask parents and guardians and teachers to work closely with candidates during the process of selecting schools to ensure that they make the right choices, and there should be 11. So instead of taking students to places where we are sure they were not going to go, you may find that we selected an extra-county school that we are sure you will go. And that process should also not elicit a lot of noise. Candidates' failure to follow selection guidelines. A sizable number of candidates opted to select only 1 or 2 choices of secondary schools against the required 11, thus limiting placement by their preferred choices. So the ministry again opted to place such candidates in schools matching their marks and capacity, even if they had not chosen them. Going forward, ladies and gentlemen, head teachers should work with parents to ensure candidates make choices as per their own guidelines. Where the parents are not able to assist the children, can the mandate be given to the teachers? Placement of candidates to each category. I wish to note that all learners had an equal chance of getting selected to their preferred schools based on merit. You'll find, for example, that the top students from some of the sub-counties in Turkana or the northern part of the country have gotten access to the top schools, even though they don't have 400 marks. That is justice that must be done. Are we together? So don't go making a lot of noise, because we are all Kenyans. Based on this fair criterion, placement of candidates based on each school category is as follows. In the national category, we're able county, no, the county we placed 188,000 for filling 1,075,201. And I want to expound a little bit using Precious Blood, which is a beautiful school and wonderful school, which is not a national school. In order to give justice to those girls who performed well and did not use their heads properly and chose, and then you put third choice as Pangani, it was full yesterday. So say, are we together? Because Precious Blood is just as good as those national schools. And that has gone across the board. So let us not have too much noise. And you are the ones to go and tell the people out there that the process was fair and just. For example, you know the army has a typical way of doing things without listening to anybody. Senior. So they ordered certain children to go somewhere. But we found one of the girls they were taking to their school had 434 marks. Was that girl from the north?
Yeah, no.
Yes.
The 432 girl.
It was the girl was from Nairobi, but the name is another name.
Yes.
With the powers vested on me by the president, we put the child at Alliance Girls High School, period. That's it. It is the child's right.
That was our first choice.
And that was her first choice. But you know, some of these people, ukiwa mtu ya jesi, sasa unasema mtoto lazima aende huko. So that's the kind of justice and detail that we went to. I can see my director is here, Starehe Boys Center. Hapana, director yangu hiyo yuko nyuma. Let me be tribalistic a bit. Some 777 SNE candidates have been placed in their schools of choice in regular schools. In total, 1,246 have been placed in various categories of schools. And I want to commend the SNE candidates for performing extremely well this year. The role of NEMIS in the administration process, as learners selected to join national schools, extra-county schools and county schools will receive their admission letters online. Parents, guardians are therefore advised to visit the ministry's website, www.education.go.ke, to download the letters after this function. Upon downloading, the learner must present the letter to the head teacher of the primary school where they start their examination for authentication. Let this process be seamless. Let no teacher start saying, well, you see, let us look at your balance. Nani amekuambia? You stamp the document and give it back to the child. If you want to negotiate school fees, negotiate it afterwards. And if we find, Dr. Nancy Macharia, my dearest friend, do you allow us to make a bit of noise if we find some people are delaying our children? And I will also call you to do one or two things. So it is not a trap for you to go and ask for your balance, fee balance. So anybody who is stopped from this process because of fee balance should get to us, and we shall explode at that time. Are we together? The letter will further be verified by the principal of the admitting school. Principals are advised to confirm that letters presented to them belong to the learners strictly in their selection list. Schools can access their selection lists from the NEMIS platform. Ladies and gentlemen, the admission of Form 1 students likewise will be done online through NEMIS this year. The ministry has developed a reporting module that will be used by each principal to relay the admission of each learner online. This will provide real-time data on admission and reporting trends to facilitate decision-making process by government. Principals will be responsible for the security and integrity of their school data in NEMIS. But I've been assured that the data in NEMIS cannot be changed, isn't it? I was assured yesterday, Doctor, you said this data cannot be messed around by somebody. Because you are saying the principal are responsible, so I'm confused. As you may be aware, the government pays examination fees for all candidates in both public and private schools. Moving forward, payment of this fee will be based on the NEMIS data. And our technical team at the ministry, together with the Ministry of ICT, I hope we shall not be hearing the yesterday's stories. I think NEMIS is now past tense. The data is clean. Let's not hear that, oh, we didn't receive money because there were students who are not in the NEMIS data. Therefore, I call upon all private schools also to ensure that all their students are captured on NEMIS. From one reporting dates, ladies and gentlemen, is determined to ensure that we are determined to ensure that Form 1 students report to school as early as possible to embark on their studies. Parents and guardians should therefore use the next 4 weeks to make the necessary arrangements in readiness for the academic year. And I also hope that that process of identifying the beneficiaries for that scholarship can be ongoing at this time. It's ongoing? Yes. Yes. Reporting dates for all Form 1 students will be on the 13th of January 2020. Yes. I don't have water in my mouth. Reporting dates for all Form 1 students in all categories of schools shall be on 13th of January 2020. The last reporting date shall be 17th of January 2020. After today's event, Form 1 placements for national and inter-county schools can be accessed by texting the candidate's index number to 22263. The candidate's index number to 22263. Soft and hard copies for each school will be availed to principals and county directors of education. The launch of the respective county Form 1 selections will be held on the 4th of December, that's 2 days from today, when lists of extra county and county schools will be released. This will be followed by the sub-county schools placement on the 6th of December, this Friday. All private schools must complete their selection by the 16th of December 2019 and file their returns through NEMIS. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to congratulate the KCP candidates 2019 and wish them well in their future endeavors. It is now my pleasure and duty to officially launch the Form 1 selection exercise for this year. Thank you very much.
The CS will now issue joining admission list to 8 schools, 1 school per region.